I'm Ansley Stevenson, Capital Improvements Project Manager, and we're back at Mifflin High School. Teachers have returned today, and we're here amidst the hustle and bustle of teachers unpacking and setting up their rooms. We wanted to take you on a guided tour one last time to see the finished product, so come along. We're here in the new Student Support Services area of Mifflin High School. Before, these spaces were scattered throughout the building, and now students and counselors have a private space to access all of those student support services. We're sitting here in one of our 3 new extended learning areas at Mifflin High School. They're all furnished slightly differently to allow a different posture for students and staffs. Some of them are more focused around technology, some of them are more focused around lounge and conversation to allow students and teachers to pick the space that suits their needs for the day. We're standing in one of our completely refreshed classrooms here at Mifflin High School. Throughout, you'll see new flooring, new ceilings, new lighting, our new sound system that allows for an even sound distribution throughout the whole classroom, and furniture that was customized for each teacher to suit their needs. Looking at the refreshed auditorium space, you'll see new seating, new theater curtains, new lighting and sound system to support our next big production here at Mifflin High School. Here in the relocated weight room at Mifflin High School, we have combined the weight room and the health classroom. So you'll see state-of-the-art, new weight equipment combined with flexible furnishings to allow us to use this space for after-school events, as well as after-school weight and strength training. Moving into the art and construction technology spaces, which were both refreshed here, you can see in the art room, we've got completely new seating for 72 students, which supports both of our art classes. We've added a lot of built-in cabinets to support all of those art materials needed to do all of the different studio functions for our high school art students. Looking at our construction technology space, you'll see a brand new dust collection around the perimeter. This will allow us to keep a safe, clean environment to teach our students the critical skills to become part of our modern construction technology world. At this project, we left no stone unturned. As you walk through the building, you will see upgrades throughout. Our hallways have been completely painted, upgrading with new ceilings and new lighting. Our cafeteria space has been refreshed, all new furniture, all new flooring, and all new lighting. Our brand new gymnasium space has been equipped with everything we need for the next big game. We have new bleachers, new basketball hoops, and a completely refinished gymnasium floor. When you walked through Mifflin High School last school year, it was a dark, outdated, uninspiring space for our young learners. When you walk through this year, you'll see a bright, refreshed space that allows our students to dream big and achieve more this school year and many school years to come.
The record last year was 3-10 because we only have 5 players, and the record this year is 7-9.
We was gonna make a team at Lynn McKinley if we had a coach or if we didn't, and we're having people come to our games to come watch us play.
Share the ball a little bit more now, and I actually see the team as like a sisterhood.
To go into an actual program that does have those type of losses, you feel like there's no expectation. And I seen from previous games that I had looked at that they actually were talented.
Araciana, she loves to get buckets. Shy, she's strong with the ball. She'll body anybody. Faith, she brings the energy if we feeling down.
Denny is doing real good. I love Denny. I got to play with my sister this year. She's a freshman.
Marion Franklin, Christiana Towns, she had 35 points, 25 rebounds, and 10 steals. She averages 18.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, 6 steals per game. Her Mifflin game that we had, Tamaya Harrington, she had 27 points, 5 rebounds, 13 steals.
It makes me feel more confident. Start varsity as a freshman and play the whole game and make a lot of points with my teammates and a lot of assists.
Changing the culture means a lot to me. It makes me feel real good that people aren't just seeing Linden girls as trash. We here Monday through Saturday, so we really putting in the work, and I'm happy people are actually coming out and seeing us. We aren't just a team that's 3-10. We're an actual high school basketball team.
Once I actually did see Darthard and the program that he was actually running and how he was uplifting and actually caring, once they actually started to win games and to see their progress and to understand how much I did really care about them outside of just the game itself, it made them want to show up. It made them care. It made them want to actually work together and have a sisterhood to where they loved each other.
My brothers are Philip, LB, Chris, and Emmanuel. When I watch my brothers play, I look up to them and I play against them a lot. So it makes me a little tougher to play against girls.
The town's name is very strong in the community, and she's living up to her name.
My goal for Leonard McKinley is to win more games and set an example for little kids.
Being a senior is pretty bittersweet that the program is just getting together, and I'm about to leave, but I'm happy it got together. Coach means a lot to me. She is actually my NOACAN advisor, so I be in her office a lot.
Miss Crenshaw, she makes sure I make it to individual workouts, things I need help with to be better.
She set up some team bonding for us. We do a lot of stuff on and off the court. I do enjoy playing against East since they are our rivals.
I have fun playing against Kennedy from Centennial, Kayla from Centennial, Layla from International.
For college, I would like to study stenography. College coaches should recruit me because I feel like I'm a good leader, I'm a good listener, and I have good discipline, and I can push myself.
She's always going to put 110% into whatever it is that she does. So a lot of the times whenever coaches are looking for that one player, that spark, Tamaya Harrington would be that person. I cannot wait to see the young woman that she's going to become.
I just want to do photography and still do basketball. College coaches should recruit me because I put all the work in. I'm very humble. I could make buckets, and I like to share the ball and communicate.
College coaches should recruit Christiana Towns because of her work ethic, the ability that she has, which is natural, and on top of that, she's very coachable. It's something different whenever you have someone to step on the court that has an athletic ability, that has a game that is different than a lot of players that do play the game, and you can still teach them something.
My name is William Stinchcomb, and I've been with the Columbus City Schools for 23 years.
My name is Mr. Dorsey Birdsall, and I'm a safety and security specialist.
My name is Anita Roman, and I am a Columbus City Schools bus driver.
My name is Sammy Gonzalez. I'm a food service manager currently at Briggs High School.
I know that if I'm not there every day and on time, you know, that student may not have a ride to school. And that weighs on me heavily. And I take pride in knowing that my students can set their clock on me. I'm always, it takes a lot for me not to come to work. It's important to come to work every day, be on time, because we may be the only way that student gets to school.
Seeing the kids years later and having them come up to me and say how thankful and grateful they were and happy that, I kept them safe in the district, and, that I can't retire or leave the district until their kids graduate.
This was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I didn't expect to live for this, but I love being part of the Columbus City School as a family. I just think because the building represents our districts, for me to see how clean the building is, I could take pride in my effort, and to put the cleaning and the organizing of the building, it just makes me feel a level of pride.
Peaceful mind can accomplish a lot of things. And when a student is hungry, their mind is oftentimes on what the next meal is going to be. In an indirect way, we affect the students in the kitchen. They can accomplish what they have to in the classroom. And for them to accomplish that, oftentimes that's going to better their situation for themselves, their family, and their community. So in a sense, helping the student in an indirect manner with the food is something that I really enjoy.
Columbus, Ohio has so much to offer our youth. The growth you can obtain from being a part of this district is huge. There is such diversity and learning experience happening throughout our K-12 buildings.
I love to see the excitement in the kids' faces when they know they can start school the very next day. So it's exciting for the families. So I think it's very impactful because it gives them that first start to, learning and growing.
I've been working with kids all my life. Coming here, meeting the students, the relationships that I've built over the years is just phenomenal. I'm seeing students, still see students to this day that thank me. Just, thanks for everything you've done. Thanks for helping provide a safe learning environment. Thank you for the talks, and they're really appreciative.
The district provides.
There was a fire.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Academic Facility Alignment Committee. Today is April 15th, 2026. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Dare?
Present.
Ms. Britt?
Present.
Ms. Turner?
Present.
Mr. Cox?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Will you please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm really excited about our meeting today. We are continuing to talk about our educational visioning, and we're going to be taking yet a deeper dive into understanding more about what that means and what it means in terms of different kind of levels and layers, and how this kind of interplays with funding choices as well that our district will have. So before we kind of get started, and we will approve the agenda in a minute, I do want to pass out to the committee members just some examples of what we are going to be working towards building. So I have some examples of educational specifications from big school districts across the country. You can see how big, and this is like a double page. Okay, so remember when I told you this is not a strategic plan, this becomes a very technical document? You will flip through, and when you get to the back, you will start to understand what I am talking about. But each of these is a little bit different in how the district set it up. They have their priorities, they have their what their community values are, but I wanted to kind of put it in your hands because I know when we say these things, it's hard to really get it unless you kind of see it. So these are not templates, these are examples, what we are going to be building to. And then once they get kind of through the table, if you guys want to pass them through the audience as well, if you guys haven't seen what these look like, I'd love for the staff to take a look and any guests that we have today. So I have, just so everyone knows, this is the Austin, from Austin, Texas Independent School District. This one is the city of Boston. I also have Detroit Public Schools, and I have Philadelphia. So other big school districts that have undergone this process. Again, just examples so you can flip through at your leisure as we're kind of in the meeting today and let them kind of flow through. I didn't give everyone a copy. You can see how large those are. We also have the committee at the end of the meeting tonight. Carl will be sending an email with some other links to school districts that only have theirs online. So you can see some other examples from school districts, other school districts as well. So again, just something for you to kind of look at. Let's go ahead and approve the minutes, and then I'm going to talk about one more thing before I turn it over to our deputy superintendent. So we are going to have 3 presentations in our committee work. We're going to talk about the state academic program requirements, which is level or layer 1, which I'll explain in a second. We're then going to hear from Alex Trevino, and he's going to talk to us about community engagement activities and data we've already collected and kind of what we already know from our community. We're going to then look at, we have a sample survey that we are going to send out to the community that's going to help us answer the question that our leadership gave us to report out in June. So that's getting us started on that front. And then we have a policy to talk about. an introduction of this policy to you all. We're not going to be discussing it actually tonight, just an introduction to you so that we can have a future discussion. And then in community engagement, we are going to talk about our field trip schedule and some other information and announcements there. Is there a motion to approve our agenda? And I have no board members here with me tonight, so you guys actually have to help me.
Motion to approve our agenda?
Thank you. Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you all. All right. So committee members, you have a document that looks like this. This is something that I put together from our last meeting, and it was actually in the report that I presented to the board. And it was just my own mind kind of thinking about, as we talk about the academic program and hearing the way that our presentation went last time, to try to understand when we talk about the things we have to have versus what is our community choosing versus what are these other things that are wonderful and amazing, but choices that we have to kind of make. And so if we think about it in these layers, layer one is what is absolutely required in our academic program. And you can see some examples. And this is actually what our presentation will be about tonight. So we're going to be taking a deep dive to understand layer one. And layer one are things we must have. We must fund. We must think about as we're building buildings and spaces because they are the requirements from the state or federal government or whoever, right? Layer two, which we're going to talk about next time, and we might have a touch of it about it, but we're going to be focusing on layer 2 and 3 in our next meeting. Layer 2 are things that our community has said are very important to us, and we really want you to fund. And to be honest with you, a lot of what is in this list are things that now people just take for granted because our community has said we want these things, such as paying for all athletics, making sure we keep our arts programming. That has been something that we've never cut. These are choices that we have made as a community. And so these are in layer 2. And so we have to kind of think about layer 2 and making sure that what layer 2 is something that all schools have because it's going to be a community requirement. We have the funding for it. And, we're making sure it's aligning with our goals and guardrails and expectations as a community. Now, layer 3 is what we're going to call optional, things we love, but maybe not every school has them. They're specialty programs. It may be things that we do that are completely optional that we love and we find value in, such as pre-K for general education students, but it's completely optional. It's something that we pay for. And as we are thinking about our academic program, our student experiences, and then layering on that funding, we have to figure out where we're making these choices about what our community is paying for and not paying for. So putting it in these layers and kind of moving the programs around can help us really understand as we're building our education specifications what we really need to be planning for that should fit in every building versus things that we know our community wants that maybe we need to plan for every building because that's what we want versus things that are optional that maybe we provide in specialized places or we make choices where we are actually not providing these services at all anymore. So this was my brain that you see on paper. And I just think it's a helpful way that as I kind of was trying to digest it, that I thought could be helpful to you all as well. I showed it to administration. They thought it was helpful, so we're going to talk about it in layers now. And so today we are going to focus a lot on layer 1 so we can really understand what today are the requirements in the academic program. So that's my introduction about what this is, and so we will keep talking about layers. So I wanted to introduce what that meant. Any questions? And I didn't read through all this because we're going to have presentations and we're going to take deeper dives. This is the exact chart that was in my report to the board at our last meeting. All right,
Hello.
with that, I'm going to turn it over for item
Hello.
3.1, presentation on the state academic program, which is Layer 1.
Hello.
Dr. Pierce, we cannot recognize you from Zoom, so you are unable to be recognized right now.
I would just like the record to reflect that I'm on Zoom, and if you could rephrase that I am on Zoom.
Yes, you are on Zoom.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Mosier.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be back with this committee this month, and I am so pleased to have a number of our academic directors, some of our area superintendents and chiefs with us as well this evening, and just want to thank my team in advance for all of the work that you have done to prepare and put together an inventory of Layer 1. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Next slide. So we are going to provide an overview this evening about requirements. So what is required? It has been referred to as the floor. Where are the non-negotiables? And we will dive right into those. Next slide. So when we talk about layers of instruction or tiers in schools in terms of our multi-tiered system of support or MTSS, what we're going to focus on this evening is core instruction. And you're going to hear about literacy, math, science, social studies, enrichment, career technical education, gifted and talented, English learners, special education, and we'll just touch on support services. We'll dive much more deeply into support services next month. Next slide. And so as we did last month, we will recognize directors of each of these areas. And so at this time, I'll ask Shalonda to come forward. And Shalonda, just introduce yourself and please take the committee through requirements for literacy.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. I am Shalonda Likely-Roach, Director of Literacy, and happy to be here this evening. So the Division of Literacy ensures that all schools implement high-quality science of reading aligned instruction in compliance with Ohio Department of Education and Workforce requirements. State law mandates that pre-K through 5th grade literacy instruction includes phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, supported by systems for universal screening, progress monitoring, and aligned interventions. In CCS, literacy is delivered through a multi-tiered systems of support, where Tier 1 provides core instruction for all students, and Tiers 2 and 3 offer targeted and intensive interventions based on student need. The department oversees the full system, including core curriculum and resources, science of reading, aligned professional development assessment systems such as iReady, and structures for diagnostic assessments and progress monitoring. This ensures alignment across instruction, assessment, and intervention so that all students receive the right support at the right time. Next slide. The key takeaway is that CCS is not only meeting state literacy requirements, but in many cases we are exceeding them. The district has established a system that is consistent across all schools, aligned to research and the science of reading. Having implemented this training and prepared hundreds of elementary teachers prior to the state mandate, and supported by ongoing professional development and coaching. The focus remains on ensuring every classroom delivers high-quality Tier 1 instruction as the foundation for improving literacy outcomes district-wide. At the same time, the Division of Literacy continuously refines its approach through data analysis, educator feedback, and evolving best practices. ensuring the instructional systems, our resources, and supports are all in place to drive improved reading and writing outcomes for all of our students. And all of our curriculum resources are ODU approved, on the ODU approved list. All right, I'm gonna.
Wait, sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't see this beforehand, and can you, not for all of you, can you just tell us, it's great what you just said, that helps us understand, but can you tell us now also, thinking about the way our teachers are teaching, the types of like setting they need, like typically, like classroom, like how are they doing this? You know, I think that might help us as we're kind of starting to think about, and I know that's like, I'm throwing this all at all of you. Sorry. But you know what I'm saying? You all look at me like, oh, great, thanks, Jen. But you know what I mean? Like, it might help us visualize a little bit, you know, teachers doing this in small groups. Do they
Yes.
need multi areas in their rooms? What does
Yes.
this look like versus high school versus? Yeah.
Yes, so within that literacy block, correct, we have built-in time for whole group and small group instruction, and that intervention piece can be small groups of students where we typically say a small group is 3 to 5 students, and that is where we deliver tier 2 instruction. And tier 3 could be one-on-one, or it could be with 2 or 3 groups of kiddos as well. So within our literacy block is structured, and so we have the first certain minutes where we teach phonemic awareness, and that is whole group. And then we move into phonics instruction, which is whole group. And then we teach our tier 1 reading, which is also whole group. We delve into small group instruction, and this is where you will walk into a classroom and you will see learning centers. And so students will be sitting in centers working on previously taught skills, where the teacher is working with a small group of students, no more than 3 to 5 is what we recommend, and working on those tier 2 interventions. So typically in that small group are those students that did not master tier 1 concepts. And then we go into our 30-minute intervention block a day. And that is, again, small groups of students working on interventions not yet mastered in tier 1 or tier 2. And that is the typical makeup of our literacy block. All right.
Thank you. So we will move to math. Certainly, we're going to deliver a lot of content in a short period of time. And then at the end, we'll go back and take additional questions.
All right. I'll turn it over to Joe Hernan to talk about math.
Terrific. Thank you. And as Joe's getting settled, for the committee, I would just name for you, you do have a large Excel spreadsheet in front of you that has additional detail about each of these areas. Welcome, Joe.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Hernan. I'm the Director of Mathematics, Innovation, and Technology. This podium moves. All right, got it. So next slide, please, if you don't mind. Thank you. So regarding math, Tier 1 math, very similar to what Shalonda just outlined with literacy, a lot of the same sort of ideas applied around mathematics. So regulatory expectations, we're expected by the state to deliver standards-aligned instruction and have systems in place for students that are not meeting grade level expectations. This is, through our intervention supports, progress monitoring, diagnostic assessment tools to identify learning needs. So a lot of those same components from a regulatory standpoint that Shalonda outlined also apply to math. In CCS, our Tier 1 view, we have core math instruction that is standards aligned. We have MTSS systems of intervention with targeted small group interventions, just like Shalonda was outlined. We have whole group and small group time for those purposes. And we have aligned intervention resources and core resources. The infrastructure includes those core adopted resources for Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, systems in place for teachers to implement those resources and routines in place for teachers to implement those resources, including our diagnostic assessment, which helps us track student progress and growth. And could you go to the next slide, please? So key takeaway here with math is that we are meeting our expectations and requirements from the state. and we're continuing to build a more responsive system for our teachers and for our students in our classrooms. So by pairing our standards-aligned instruction with the intervention systems and the resources that we have in place, we're really looking at closing those achievement gaps and continuing to grow our students so that they can meet those expectations. And then to answer your questions around facilities, what are the implications for facilities, right? So I think about flexibility, the need for flexibility. Going from whole group to small group, the need to go from different sort of structures within the classroom to deliver these expectations, that's a definite necessity. Even like within a whole group structure, we're expecting our teachers to engage our students with, discourse amongst peer-to-peer. So that even flexibility within these core structures is critical because, the instruction may differ a little bit day to day or even within a math block. So having the ability to change up the way that the classroom is set up to meet those instructional needs would be key.
Will you just mention iReady and how students access iReady?
Yeah, so iReady is our diagnostic assessment. We also use it for our elementary math curriculum, and we have personalized instruction, which is part of that sort of core instructional experience that students have. And that program is accessed online via Chromebook. So the need for technology for teachers, for students, and flexible technology is definitely a requirement.
Thank you.
I believe my colleague, Brian Morton, Dr. Morton is next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Morton, Director of Teaching and Learning K-12. And as you all have heard, there are going to be some common themes that you're going to hear tonight where our work is really grounded in the state standards. So if we can go to the next slide. You're going to see that as we look at science, we are driven by the state standards that are inclusive of physical science, life science, earth and space sciences, but are not limited to just those items. We're expected to provide hands-on opportunities for our students, where our students are really engaged and indulge in inquiry-based learning. They are ensured to have access not only to just scientific investigation, but also experimentation. We want our students to really explore and dive into deep knowledge and application. I'm not going to read down the whole entire list, but we have some accountability measures that we also have to follow at the state level, where we have end-of-course exams that occur at the 5th grade level for science, 8th grade level for science as well, and then high school biology. Within our instructional pieces, we ensure that our students are receiving standards-aligned science instruction, lab-based and inquiry-driven learning opportunities, which is going to lead into your question that you had about what do our facilities look like. We definitely want to have flexible spacing where our students can really spread out. They can have an opportunity to really do some hands-on opportunities. That's not just keeping them behind the desk, but allowing them to move around as well. But again, looking at our curriculum-aligned assessments and standards as well. Our students have access to our curriculum through a variety of online platforms for science. I'm going to move to the next slide. When we think about key takeaways, we also make sure that we are delivering not only just standard-based alignment, but we're also ensuring that our students have the opportunity to have hands-on opportunities and inquiry-based opportunities for our students. We don't want to limit our students just to being behind a book, but being able to put that to good use and really put their hands in when it comes to science. I have the luck of moving to multiple areas, so I'm going to move on to social studies as well. If we move to the next slide. What you're going to see, once again, our work is driven by the state standards. When it comes specifically to social studies, a lot of our focuses in the state standards are going to be around history, government, geography, economics. So we're going to see that driven all the way from kindergarten education all the way up to 12th grade education. And then you're also going to see that we're also aligning our students to high quality standards-based aligned instruction. We want to also make sure that this is a part of a well-rounded experience that our students are getting at the K-12 level. What you'll see, again, there are some accountability measures for science, social studies as well, really that start at the high school level with American government at the 11th grade level, American history at the 10th grade level, and then this all ties into what is reported on our state report card. As you all have heard, standards-aligned civics and history instruction is part of our Tier 1 view, as well as course-aligned to graduation requirements. So courses that are required for our students to take when it comes to graduation. But again, access, as you all again have heard, common themes is accessing through our learning management systems, through our various digital resources. Next slide. And then we are meeting these standards-aligned requirements by delivering standards-aligned instruction through history, government, geography, economics, as well as just strengthen our students to think critically. One more area I get to focus on, and this is very much so inclusive of our unified arts. If we can move to the next slide. While we have requirements under the Ohio Revised Code 3301.079 to provide instruction under fine arts, health, physical education, and world languages, as the federal government looks at this, they look at it as providing and ensuring that our students have access to a well-rounded experience. While there are not necessarily full requirements for the federal government, there are components at the state level that are included and required for graduation pieces. So when it comes to fine arts, we include instructions that are aligned, of course, to the state standards around fine arts that really focus on creative expression, performance, and artistic development. Health and physical education, ensuring our students are moving and understanding, making good decisions when it comes to health and social awareness. And then world language, again, as we talked about, a part of a well-rounded experience where our students are diving into various world languages that are inclusive of French, ASL, Spanish, as well as other heritage languages that are available to our students. Again, our students have a variety of experiences when it comes to our unified arts, dance, drama, instrumental music, vocal music, health, physical education, as well as visual arts, and then again, having a well-rounded experience when it comes to world language. I don't want to skip this one piece, which is really our Spruce Run Nature Center, which really allows our students to, again, apply what they're learning in the classroom, take it into a wonderful space, and really get their hands dirty and really apply what they've been learning in the classroom. If we can move to the next slide. When we think about these enrichment areas, we provide, again, standards-aligned enrichment programs that includes the arts, physical education, world language, as a part of a well-rounded experience for our students. All right. Next, I believe I'm going to pass it off to, if we can go to the next slide, I believe it's my esteemed colleague, Jenny Mead.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Jenny Mead. I'm the Director of Career Tech Education. Just to give a quick overview, as part of Career Tech, we have a report card as a Career Tech Planning District. So Dr. Chapman is not only the superintendent of Columbus City Schools, but she is of the Career Tech Planning District, which includes Westerville, Grandview, Upper Arlington in a compact, and then about 84 charter schools that all work together in terms of Career Tech, and our report card reflects the work of all of those districts together. So when you looked at our expectations and what needs to take place, as a CTE program must align to an approved pathway that an application goes to the state, it's approved, and there are certain components that are in it. Technical skill attainment, which focuses on credentials, work-based learning, and then post-program review, thinking 6 months after a student graduates, are they in the workforce? Are they in military? What are they doing so that we can reflect on our programs? Are they supporting students as they graduate and move into the real world? Programs require pathway-specific curriculum, equipment and lab spaces, credential alignment to industry, not just what the teachers want or what the students want. What's going to get you hired? What's going to get you college credit? What makes you marketable into multiple different areas? Industry-relevant learning environments that we do in collaboration with industry partners. So as we're thinking about spaces, what does it look like at Worthington Industries? What does it look like at Andrel? What does marketing look like, whether you're working at home or in an office space? So thinking about some of those different areas. Thinking about the Tier 1 view, there are many different career fields, and we are supporting the ones that you see listed there. Next year, we're expanding, and we're going to add into energy, which is another exciting area in Central Ohio. And then the delivery occurs, and I kind of mentioned this again in the beginning. Traditionally, it has happened in our 2 career centers. We're now expanding into our comprehensive. So we are the only district in the state that operates as a comprehensive CTE program and a compact in collaboration with those other districts. Other slide. And then CCS provides CTE offerings that meet all the state requirements and provides students with state-of-the-art experiences across all CTE environments. So when you're really thinking about space, I think one of the most important things about career tech classrooms is you have a lab that should look exactly like it does in industry. So if you haven't been in our auto tech lab, come see what it looks like, cars, lifts. If you haven't been in our welding lab, students are in bays using the welding bay and doing that work. What does a marketing classroom look like? How do we have pods and spaces? Because again, people are working both in hybrid environments, at home and in work. How do we bring industry partners in? One of the common conversations you're hearing is most CTE classrooms should have a classroom space and a lab space. Sometimes you want to be able to see that because you might have 8 kids in the lab doing something, but certain kids in the classroom working on a module or completing a credential assessment, something to that place. So what does flexible space look like where you have different sites, view sites, I don't think that's the right wording, but you can see in multiple spaces and be able to monitor students in different areas like that. What does it look like if we're bringing in, so if we have a sports med program and we're doing something with physical fitness, what does it look like to bring in clients? What does it look like in different areas to be able to bring in so that our students are getting real world experiences in our labs in a simulated experience? All right, and then our next group is gifted.
Good evening. I'm Kirsten Smith, the Director of Gifted and Talented, and the regulatory expectations for gifted education as required by the state is a district plan for identification and service. Identification areas are superior cognitive, reading, math, creative thinking, and visual and performing arts. The state also requires screening and assessment, and it must align with ODU guidelines. Districts are required to identify but not serve. Universal screening, gifted screening, and alternative assessments must be on the state-approved list of gifted assessments, and each student served receives 225 minutes of gifted service a week. So if it is not 225, then it's considered enrichment and not service. And teachers also have to participate in ongoing professional development. So the Tier 1 view is our instruction is split up into direct service as well as talent development. So our direct service for K2 is our literacy enrichment pullout, but don't be fooled by the word enrichment. It is still 225 minutes a week per student. Grades 3 to 5 in reading and math, grades 6 to 8 in reading and math, and high school is considered gifted service is considered with course selection of honors courses, AP, IB, or CCP. And then we also have our talent development model, which occurs in 40 of our elementary buildings for all K2 students. Our infrastructure includes K2 in every elementary school in CCS. Grades 3 to 5 are served in 16 gifted site schools. Grades 6-8 are served in 8 gifted site schools. And then each region has gifted site schools. So you talk about equity and you talk about access. There are gifted site schools in every region in the district so that students can also stay in their region that is close to their home. And then Columbus Gifted Academy is an immersive gifted instruction in all academic areas. Next slide, please. So the key takeaway is that CCS offers a broad continuum of gifted services for K-12 students in a variety of settings, and that gifted services in CCS exceed state requirements in many areas, not all areas, with the aim of extending access and opportunities for students. Thank you. Now I'll have my colleague, Mr. Michael Sain.
Before you step away, will you say a little bit about space requirements?
They have actually lifted, there was a 20-student limit for gifted instruction. The state has lifted that for this year going forward. I will say for gifted ed that we morph ourselves into a variety of spaces, you know, depending on whether we're working with 2 kids or 20 kids. And I would echo what my colleagues have said about the flexibility of space, but also having space. You know, teaching out in the hallway is really just not an option. So having a space where students can work with their teacher in a focused setting is important. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michael Sain, Director of ESL. For our regulatory expectations, we have in place in our department language development services for eligible students that have been identified as LEP. We have access to core academic instruction while acquiring English, appropriate instructional supports and accommodations that we're required to provide, services aligned to students' language proficiency and educational needs, and processes for identifying and monitoring the supporting English learners over time. Our Tier 1 view, we currently provide ESL instruction at 61 locations throughout the district. We have 8 locations where we have a full shelter site model that we use. We have 2 locations where we provide newcomer support services for our English learners. And then at the elementary level, we provide push-in or pull-out services for our English learners depending on the numbers at that particular location. Most of the situations that we have in our district are pull-out at the elementary level. Our infrastructure inside the ESL department, what we provide is multiple service delivery models with EL teachers and bilingual instructional assistants throughout the district at locations, access to core instruction while developing English proficiency, and supports to tailor to students' need, grade level, and entry point. And I want to add what's really important, that we also provide professional development for our teachers throughout the district. And one of the pieces that I really want to make sure that we provide under this area is that our Language Assistance Center, I want that to be recognized, that we provide all the translations and interpretations for the district. So that's written translations in 5 different languages. And we also provide the support for interpretation meetings for our IEP students in those particular meetings. And that's a lift in itself, so I want to just call that out. And I think I had a couple people back there that they said I better say that or I'd be in big trouble. So. Key takeaway. What we want to do as a district, that we want to having a tailored approach that helps multilingual learners access instruction in ways that reflect their grade level, language proficiency, and individual needs. Thank you.
You say a little bit about space.
Space. Oh, yes. We have at the high school level, each individual teacher has their own particular classroom that in their own set of classes and schedule. And at the elementary level, they're usually at a location where they do pull out. It's not a particular full-size classroom, but they do spaces provided in each individual building to do pull out for sometimes 7 to 10 students, depending on the number of teachers at that location or the number of IAs there to help support those teachers. So it's usually a smaller location at the pull-out services, but at the middle school and the high school level, we have those teachers have their full classrooms and their full set of schedule and their English learners. Yes, thank you. And who's next? At our next slide, who am I missing? I can't be last.
Special
Key takeaway, we've
education.
already covered
Yeah.
that. So who's next? Help me out.
Special education.
Special education. All right.
Good
Good evening. My name is Donna Taylor, one of the directors in the Special Education Department.
I'm Joyce Albright, one of the directors in the Special Education Department.
Before we get into the details, I want to start with the regulatory expectations that guide everything we do in special education. At the core, both federal and state law requires us to identify students, provide appropriate services, and ensure access to instruction in the student's least restrictive learning environment. In practice, that means we evaluate students when there is a suspected disability, determine the eligibility, and align services directly to the individual student needs. Those services are delivered by appropriately licensed staff in alignment with IDEA and Ohio's operating standards. So with that as our foundation, here at Columbus City Schools, we provide services to students on the full continuum, from our general education classrooms where we have full inclusion, to our social emotional learning centers, to our Columbus Hearing Impaired program, and we also have students whose needs are great where they have to have home instruction. The goal is always to match the level of support to the individual student, not the other way around. To support that, we have systems in place to ensure consistency from the evaluation process to the identification process, making sure that we include families along the way and throughout that entire process. All of this is grounded in Ohio's operating standards and board-adopted policies to ensure compliance and quality. Ultimately, our focus is to make sure that every student receives adequate services to support them to make sure that they are successful. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Okay. So the key takeaway is that in our department, we want to go beyond compliance. What Dr. Taylor talked about was the compliance piece. We want to be into best practice. We want to ensure our students with disabilities have the most appropriate learning environments that meet their individualized needs. So doing that, we do it through evaluation, through thoughtful planning, ensuring that we have licensed and effective staff in all those classrooms, in that continuum of learning environments that were listed on the prior slide. And then working with the parents so that we fully understand all of the needs of our students with disabilities. And then we go beyond compliance at that point and we move into best practices. We're providing individualized access to learning for all of our students by following that continuum and really tailoring it to the individual needs of each child. In terms of classrooms, our inclusion classrooms would look very much like Joe and Shalonda spoke about, where you may have whole group, you may have small groups, you may even have some one-to-one support in the classroom through IAs. In our SLC classrooms, the seating may look very different. You may have some very specialized seating in the classroom, specialized desks are needed, there's wheelchairs in those classrooms. Needs are very different for those students. So those classrooms do look a little bit different. They require a little bit more space to be able to safely navigate around through the classrooms.
You talked about assessment. Where to talk about the space needed to do assessments and to meet with families.
Yes, yes. And being a prior principal, I mean, when families come in to meet with you to do an IEP or, and you have a big IEP team, having that space, having that conference room where you're not just sitting in a classroom where the class changed, then you got to get up and move to go someplace else. You want to have a nice space to be able to meet with families. A lot of times they bring advocates with them or people who work with their child outside of our school system. Or in a meeting, we could have OT, PT, we could have speech, we could have all of these, a lot of people around the table. So we want to have a nice, adequate space to be able to sit and really comfortably discuss what we need for each student. So yes, that is very important.
Next slide. So I'll just touch briefly on support services before we move into the next part of the agenda. And as I said, we'll dig into support services more deeply next month. But as you can see on this slide, these are services that are provided by a school counselor, school social worker, school nurse. And you can imagine that the space requirements for these services are very specific to the service delivered. And while a school counselor may be working with a group of students around a social habit or practice, you know that it would also be important to have private spaces to work one-on-one with students. Think about a school clinic, the need for students to come in for emergency situations as well as daily care situations, and the flexibility. Again, you've heard the word flexibility over and over as we've gone through these Tier 1 basic services. So again, more information next month on support services. Next slide. And one more. So I do want to name, you have certainly heard about ELA and math, science and social studies, core curriculum. We have multiple examples of where Columbus City School programs go beyond what is required. And please know that there's no judgment here. We certainly believe that universal pre-K is important in our community, but important to name that it is not required for general education pre-K. Similarly, our adult education program, we offer incredible opportunities for adults in the Columbus community. That is also not a state requirement of a kindergarten through 12th grade school system. We offer gender-based programs at Columbus Preparatory School for Girls and Columbus Preparatory School for Boys. You heard about the Gifted Academy that serves students in grades 3 through 8. We have dual language schools, Columbus Spanish Immersion and Ecole Kenwood. Our hearing impaired services through the program that we refer to as CHIP, we serve students from out of district in addition to our own Columbus City School students. And then we provide a number of alternative programs at 100% lottery schools. So again, next month we'll go into more detail. Next slide. And dig in on feedback from the committee regarding what we are referring to as Layer 2 and Layer 3, where we exceed state requirements and provide programs that match the values of our community. And with that, before we transition into the next segment, do you want to take questions?
Yes, let's take questions. Catherine, maybe you can kind of help us understand a little bit, because when we talk about the core curriculum, we obviously know that's in every school, right? But when we kind of talk about the requirements that we have under things like career tech or ELL or special education, gifted, we know that those are not in every school. While we serve every student, if there was a need that happened, we may not serve them in their home school. Right. Can you kind of maybe help us understand that line a little bit about the difference between like how we look at core curriculum versus how we choose to provide these mandatory services, if that's making sense?
Yes. So certainly the core subjects, ELA, math, science, social studies, unified arts, although Dr. Morton did mention dance, for example. Dance is only offered in some schools. And in some schools, there is a dedicated space designed for a dance program. In other schools, there is not. And so we do not have dance, for example, in all schools. As Chair Adair mentioned, we certainly provide the required services for students with IEPs, but we do not offer all programs at all sites. We are certainly working towards providing more services closer to where students live, but in some cases, decisions made based on space availability over the past decade and even before are actually have created a situation where we are transporting many students out of their home community in order to receive the services that the student needs and qualifies for. That similarly, many of our English learner students are traveling outside of their home school in order to receive English language services. It does not have to be that way, and you will hear our team and the board talk about the importance of strengthening our neighborhood schools and strengthening services within each community in the city.
Thank you. What questions does the committee have?
That actually was my main question. Like, how are students served if those services are not offered in the building? So you're reading my mind.
Dr. Nelson, I'll call on you. Will you just give a very high level, talk about the percentage of students who are not served in their home school?
So most recent data suggests that about 58% of our students with disabilities are not served in their home school, their neighborhood school. That is by district placement. So we know we have the lottery, we know we have parent choice, but this is where the district has said, we're sorry, we cannot serve you in your neighborhood school. The reasons for that, as Catherine spoke about, have to do with space and buildings. We have a lot of buildings, but we don't have a lot of space in those buildings. We were on a meeting this morning. Mr. Trevino was there, and we were talking about some of the challenges we have with even moving one classroom. We don't have that luxury or that availability. And so it really does then become, we do have a system, so it's not completely random. Our central enrollment team, when students move into the district, if they have an IEP, the central enrollment team and our team, the SPED team, will work together. If there's not services in the neighborhood school, there is a list of closest schools. So then we kind of start here and work our way out. So we do have a process that exists when we are looking at moving students outside of their neighborhood school, but we are years away from being able to serve every student in their neighborhood school, or as we're beginning to talk about and think about serving students within their high school feeder pattern. So we may not need an SLC, for example, a specialized learning center in every building, but let's cluster our elementary buildings together that feed into our middle school, that feed into our high school. So our families then our students can continue to engage with their peers within their neighborhood, and we're not putting students on a bus and busing them across town because that's the next available space. So we are definitely, as Catherine said, one of our goals is to build strong learning communities within each neighborhood, and part of that is looking at the community, the neighborhood community, not just one particular site. And that is really, again, the best utilization of all of our resources, our precious resources, but also looking at the physical space that we have or lack thereof in some of our smaller settings where we don't have the opportunity to put more classrooms or more students in a particular location. Does that help? Okay.
As you all were talking, I was making notes about the space, and I just want to read it back so that if there's something additional as we kind of are thinking, maybe we can add or discuss as a group here. So the big takeaways I got from all of you is that we really need flexible spaces, spaces that will allow for full group instruction, small group instruction, one-on-one spaces, also where teachers and instructors can visualize the entire space, no matter where the students are. So if there's a lab in career tech or some sort of lab in science, they can still see the lab and the classroom or whatever spaces are in the area, so that they can see all the students. The spaces should also be adaptable so that the lessons that are being taught, experiments, experiences, activities, whatever we need can happen in the space, which could include things like flexible seating or flexible spaces. Also, I heard technology plays a part in a lot of the things you said. Most of you didn't say tech, but if you think about it, tech is playing a role in pretty much everything that you guys have. So flexible tech, making sure that we have enough plugs and chargers and spaces and places, right, for technology. Also, meeting spaces, intentional meeting spaces for teachers, families, to talk about like things like IEPs or different meetings, things like that, intentional spaces. Intentional pull-out spaces. So not extra spaces, not hallways, not closets, but actual rooms, places that are made to be pull-out spaces for a variety of things. We pull out for a lot of things. Also, spaces for support services, which we'll get more into next time, but they need to have the things that they actually need for the support services in the space. Committee members, did any of you take any extra notes that I didn't maybe catch when we were thinking about the space needs that you heard? And then now hearing my list, is there anything else we need to really keep in mind as we start to really think about marrying, right, our academic program, our requirements, our community values, what we want to happen in our buildings versus how we're going to build them, renovate them, create the actual spaces that give our teachers, our administrators, our families, our students, the places, the exact places, the perfect places to deliver the programs that we're delivering. I'll just open that, and I don't know if I'm running into Alex's thunder now, but like, is there anything now that you've heard the minimum of what we're required to do versus the spaces we need to do it? Anything else that you all want to add that maybe wasn't part of your presentation?
Feel free to jump up, guys. I would say the one thing when you mentioned tech, I think the other piece of this is not just the Chromebooks or carts or things, but it is the infrastructure to support high quality, high speed internet and things like that. Because all of the things that we're talking about, most of our curricular resources are online. So for kids to be able to go and flex from a whole group to a small group, work with a peer on a project, our infrastructure for supporting that high-speed, high-quality Wi-Fi and internet access that is consistent. It's not just about the device, it's about the inner workings that allows kids to access those things that in many of our buildings we do not have, or it's, you know, we've got routers and walls and things like that. So again, based on the how old our buildings are really impacts the ability to then build out those spaces that allow kids to engage in learning in an electronic way where they're engaging in things on different platforms. So I would say that's another piece to it as well as we're thinking about building and creating and moving forward. And then I will open it up to anyone else who wants to jump up.
I would also mention just some very basics. Places to wash your hands without going down the hall. Restrooms that are spread throughout the building. We have many legacy buildings where the restrooms may only be on one level of the school. That's a lot of transition time, lots of time outside of the classroom. Lunchrooms, spaces to feed students, breakfast and lunch and after-school activities, latchkey, that are not also the space where the physical education program needs to be delivered. Dedicated art, music spaces that are actually created for that function. If you've been in an elementary school and you hear the wonderful sound of the first lessons in recorder and some of the other drumming and such, if the room does not have proper acoustics and that joyful noise is spreading through the building, but if students are taking an assessment down the hall, you can imagine that that may not be conducive for the learning environment. So I would also mention windows and natural light, as well as secure access to outside spaces.
What about the adult spaces that are needed to support these requirements? I know that, in most of our legacy buildings, there's a teacher workroom that may also be a closet, supply room, copy room, lounge, sometimes a meeting space that you bring parents to. I've been to one of those. So what about spaces for the adults who are actually delivering these services to our students? What kind of adult spaces do we need to be considering?
Yeah, and I think, again, it's very similar to what we would want for our students. Opportunities for flexibility. You're exactly right. In those buildings where, quite frankly, there is a luxury of some level of a teacher's lounge, it is a teacher's lounge / copy room / fill in the blank. And so for our teachers to be able to engage in, again, that Joe mentioned dialogue, we always want to increase student agency, but we're also doing the same thing for our teachers. So for teachers to come together in a space that, as Catherine pointed out, that is dynamic and fun, and they're able to come and collaborate and learn from one another is vital. And unfortunately, in some of our buildings, that's the first to go. We need to put a new classroom. Now our teacher's lounge is a closet. Our teacher's lounge is the other half of another type of space. And so it doesn't lend itself to the type of creativity and the dynamic ways we want our teachers to engage with one another, or we want our building teams to come together to, talk about a strategy, to learn, again, from one another. So I think very much what we're talking about with our student spaces, we would want similar for our teachers. Flexibility, the ability for them to come together, to learn, to grow, all of those things. And as you pointed out, Board Member Adair, oftentimes they're catch-alls, or they're non-existent, or they're the first to go. And that's not fair to our teachers. So that's something else that we look at. Alex and I were talking and sharing a story today, this morning, where we are in a building where we're talking about having to rewrite some boundaries, and we walk through the building, and it's like, okay, well, looks like the teacher's lounge, we're gonna have to talk about that, because we don't have the ability to put more classrooms in that particular space. And so now, to serve our students, we're having to make those really tough decisions about then taking something away from our teachers who work really, really hard every day to meet the needs of our kids.
Yeah, and someone might say, well, teacher's lounge, that's not a layer one. That's not on your required list. And it's not, but spaces where our professionals can work to collaborate, to do the IEP paperwork, to make sure that we are doing professional development. A lot of you mentioned professional development, so that they can make sure that they are doing the requirements appropriately. I think that should be, considered. And as we start to move to larger spaces where we don't just have, what do we call it when there's one teacher in one grade?
Singleton.
A singleton, right? Yeah. Where we can have more collaboration among grades and teams and planning. Creating intentional spaces, I think, for the adults also is important and helps us to deliver these layer one services better. So I just, as we're thinking out loud, because that's what this is all about. I mean, this is the fun committee, right? We get to build a building. What perfect, what do we want, right? So just thinking about all of that out loud, and I know for so long it's just we do with what we have. That's the mindset. You give me whatever, and I will make it work. And I want to say, I want to give you the moon and the stars in the universe right now. We'll figure out how to pay for it. But let's talk about, if I could give you all those things unlimited, what would that be? What would that perfect educational environment be? And right now we're just focused on layer one.
I wouldn't want us to forget the importance of having dedicated space for family resources, for family engagement. We do have some schools that maybe they do have a small space close to the front door of the building, and that ends up being the space where a family ambassador is able to meet new parents or to provide support to a family in linking resources. So yes, it's the classrooms. Yes, it's the teacher preparation space. Yes, it's the service, other service delivery. We want the space for our partners who provide valuable services to students to have a space where they're welcome and that serves the needs of that, of the function of that partnership as well. But certainly space to engage and welcome families.
And this is not the end of this conversation, obviously. And this is the whole point of the educational visioning and ed spec. So we're going to keep in this mindset throughout our entire work, which is exciting. Okay, so are there any other questions about layer 1? Okay.
Next slide.
All right, so we're going to move into a little conversation around community engagement. And just to kind of refresh all of us on where we have been. So we're going to start with facility master plan, and I'm going to let the AV team know to get video 1 queued up, but I'll talk just a little bit to let them do their magic. So you'll notice in the presentation there are 4 links. We are only going to watch the first 2 today just out of respect for your time. By all means, click the second 2 links. The third link is to Leggett Architects, which is the professional facilitator that did our master plan work in 2022. That last link is a comparison. So as part of our facility master plan work, we toured a legacy facility, one of those ones older than 50 years, and then a newer facility, a facility master plan facility. So it gives you a nice contrast between what our facilities look like, old to new. And we're going to start with a video that was done with the master planning committee. So keep in mind this was an all community-based group. It was community leaders from each of the regions. It was students from each region. It was stakeholders at large representing the city. And so this first video is done at Wycliffe Elementary School, which is a recently completed new elementary for Upper Arlington schools. And it was really a chance for that group to come together and talk with the staff at Upper Arlington and kind of understand their why. Why did they go down this path?
Welcome you back to the facilities master planning process. We're facilitating the master plan. It's community-led. You are the leaders. We are the facilitators. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, this is the engagement phase where we're taking student leads and regional chairs along with our master planners to a state-of-the-art educational facility so that we could tour the current designs and use those to ideate and inspire us to incorporate those into our master plan. Education has changed. We realize that design and construction, we have to incorporate light into spaces, and spaces must have multi-use. So as the students come in, they don't just sit in a classroom, they're able to go into multiple spaces and have different learning environments and have different teams that they can learn with.
When you come into these spaces, there's just life here constantly. I mean, there's kids sitting everywhere, groups meeting everywhere. It's about really maximizing the interaction amongst the students.
One of the great ideas was doing a TikTok so we could have a little bit of fun, act like kids, but also talk about the areas of the building that inspired us.
We know that this kind of facility belongs in Columbus City Schools. We deserve this. Welcome you back to the facilities master planning process. We're facilitating the master plan. It's community-led. You are the leaders. We are the facilitators. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, this is the engagement phase where we're taking student leads and regional chairs along with our master planners to a state-of-the-art educational facility so that we could tour the current designs and use those to ideate and inspire us to incorporate those into our master plan. Education has changed. We realize that design and construction, we have to incorporate light into spaces, and spaces must have multi-use. So as the students come in, they don't just sit in a classroom, they're able to go into multiple spaces and have different learning environments and have different teams that they can learn with.
When you come into these spaces, there's just life here constantly. I mean, there's kids sitting everywhere, groups meeting everywhere. It's about really maximizing the interaction amongst the students.
One of the great ideas was doing a TikTok so we could have a little bit of fun, act like kids, but also talk about the areas of the building that inspired us.
We know that this kind of facility belongs in Columbus City Schools. We deserve this.
So then as they work on queuing up video too, so obviously you see the masks. So this work was initiated in 2020, prior to pandemic, launched worst possible time, right at the start of pandemic. So the first 3 engagements were done full virtual. And I think this was the year when probably everybody brought the word pivot into their vocabulary. I think we pivoted more times than we could count. And so now you're going to hear a little bit of a story around how we pivoted in terms of engagement, because honestly, we were struggling at the front end just for lack of participation for a variety of reasons. So over the past couple of weeks, we've wrapped up the formal community engagement for Phase 5 of the Facility Master Plan. So Phase 5 is Consider, and Consider is really just thinking about all the potential options there are, thinking about academic spaces for the district and how things could, and I would say especially should, look different going forward.
I am a parent of a 5th grader at ACO Kenwood French Immersion. I also have a 10th grader who also attended ACO Kenwood and Dominion. If we're building new buildings, how do we make sure that the infrastructure is there for that? Are we building pools and stadiums? Are we making sure that there's science labs? You know, all of these things connect to other areas of the city like Ohio State and Chem Abstract. You know, all of the businesses that are here could really be key players in the future of how our students learn.
You know, we certainly want to always have as much representation as we can get, but we just weren't hearing that student voice in the public meetings. And so we made a very intentional pivot to get out to our schools and make sure that we do have that student voice really leading the way for this facility master plan.
I think this simulation thing was a great idea because we need like the actual students' thoughts when it comes to making those big decisions that will eventually affect these students.
I think some schools that needed to be combined were Kaz and I think Eastmore, I believe. Both schools I remember are lottery schools, so combining those two could like have a great facility, like a system that could help the students a lot. And it's interesting because it could be like the second Fort Hayes kind of like.
As of today, I think we've hit about a dozen of our school sites. We've made the commitment that over the next couple of weeks, we're going to make sure we touch every single one of our middle school and high schools. At this point, we've engaged with over 200 students.
This district specifically is very spread out. There's a lot of students in different parts of the district that go to private schools and other types of schools. But the reason they're going to private school is because they feel like the public school near them doesn't have the things that, well, the parents feel like they don't have the opportunities they wish to get their kids to have. And I feel like if we balance it out and add equal opportunities to each schools, then more students would go to the district.
Looking at how really complex it is. It's really easy to say, oh, cross this off and build this here. But when you're speaking to people who have been in that space and have personal interactions with those students and teachers, you start to see how big of a decision and the weight that it could be.
I hope everybody understands the significance of public schools. in the vibrancy of our city. And so I think everybody has a role to fill and a voice that should be heard in terms of what those schools look like, because this really is a long-term plan.
I think it is needed because it could just generally influence our future generation and just make things better.
So just to get back to this slide, do you want to talk a little bit about the ed visioning dates before we
Sure.
move on to the next section?
And we can move to the community engagement FMP slide. But for our committee, I would just draw your attention. You have a flyer in your packet that looks like this, Designing the Classrooms of Tomorrow. And I want to invite all of you and anyone listening. We will be doing some introduction to Ed Visioning at the end of the month. We'll be at Centennial High School on April 27th, at Columbus Afrocentric Early College on Tuesday the 28th, and at West High School on April 29th. All of those sessions will be at 6 o'clock. And they will run for about 2 hours. But we will have a facilitator who is experienced in doing this educational visioning work with districts across the state and actually around the country, but very knowledgeable about the specific requirements for Ohio. And if you remember to last month's meeting, we met Valerie Montoya from the OFCC, and she talked a little bit about state requirements for school construction. This Ed Visioning introduction will certainly talk about the moon and the stars and all the things that can be, and also talk about how to design educational spaces in the meantime, in the spaces that we currently have within buildings where we have walls and other items that wouldn't be so easy to move. I'll just name for the committee that in addition to the 6 p.m. sessions for community, we will also be engaging with students during the day at each of those schools. And we will have groups of students who are also participating in that introduction to Ed Visioning. It really is just an introduction and a taste of the process. We expect that we will re-engage with facilitators in the fall over a several-week process to, in fact, engage more stakeholders, more participants, and in the end, the outcome is to, in fact, create a Columbus City Schools Ed specification document similar to the one that you shared at the beginning of the meeting from other districts around the state. But please mark your calendar to come out for one of those Ed Visioning sessions.
And there's even more, right?
Yes.
So in tandem with that, we have been working on organizing tours. So we're very blessed in the city of Columbus to have suburban counterparts in every direction. So at this time, we have a tour of it's still under construction actually, the Thomas Worthington High School facility. It is scheduled for April 29th from noon to 1:30, so you'll see invitations coming from that. Just remember, it is an active construction site, but I oftentimes think as powerful as it is to see the site, it's actually more powerful to talk to the people. I'm not sure we'll get the lessons learned from them because they haven't even moved into it yet. So the other two facilities we're working on will be recently completed facilities, and so you'll get to see them in action once we have those confirmed. We'll also have access to administrators, I believe, and staff, so we can, again, have those conversations, what things worked well. Hopefully they'll tell us which ones did not work well, and maybe those things will or won't work for us, but I always feel like that dialogue is super helpful. So just a couple slides, again, to just kind of recap. So these came straight from our consultant, Leggett Architects. And so these are here for your purposes if you'd like them. So they set up this very intentional 6-stage process where there were 3 phases that are kind of really just like looking at all of the existing stuff, talking about things as they are. And then the final 3 phases really talking about how things might be, how they could be, should be. So there is that slide. And then here are just the statistics in terms of how many engagement points we had. So 6 regions, 6 phases, so there was a total of 36 community meetings. Again, as just part of that pivot, like really understanding that we needed to reach people where they were versus asking them to come to us all the time. So where we typically do our meetings in the evenings, which work well for working hour parents, don't work so well for lots of others. So we did intentional meetings during the daytime hours. We did meetings on the weekends. We did meetings that were full virtual. The vast majority of them were hybrid so that anybody could join even if they couldn't do it in person. And then kind of wanted to just shift us a little bit to talk about engagement and all the different ways we engage and really thinking about how we engage, maybe why we engage, what the purpose is behind it. So going to switch you from that macro level engagement over master plan into very detailed project-based engagement. So this is our Salem Elementary School project. It is a construction project already queued up, ready to go for this summer. So very excited to have this work underway. So we've been meeting with staff throughout the year, talking about their classrooms, their needs, the things they want to see in their spaces. We very intentionally wanted to make sure we heard student voice and give them a place to really do something that they're going to get to see actually play out in real life. So we actually spent a lot of time talking about how to do it. And this is just my personal mantra, like do not ask people a question you don't want an answer to. And certainly don't allow them to give you feedback or don't ask for feedback that you can't do something with. And so sometimes asking those open-ended questions have a real purpose, but if you can't do anything with their feedback, I don't know, I feel like we lead ourselves all to disappointment. So my team came up with a kit of parts. So not Legos, but imagine like Legos of what a potential outdoor classroom might look like. And we went out to the school and 2 of my project managers worked with the students. So on the right side of your screen, you'll see their current outdoor classroom. So we're very fortunate at Salem Elementary School. We have some amazing partners. So what you see there now exists today. So there's already a covered like shelter house. There's gardens, and we really wanted to like lean into that. So like where you see those sparks at a school site, like we want to feed it. We want a full-on inferno of outdoor classroom. We want kids outside learning. And so this is students working on designing their own classroom for outdoors. And when they come back in the fall, they're going to get to see the results of their work. And so we're pretty excited about that. So sometimes engagement is these big nebulous things. Sometimes it's real small hands-on. And there's a space for all of it. And that kind of takes us back to this ed visioning and like, what are we asking people to do? And I tried to think of a way, maybe not for you, but maybe for ways for you to talk to the community. Because I feel like sometimes people are like, I don't understand, like, what is this ed visioning? I think ed visioning has a place all over our district. I think you're going to hear that a lot of it has nothing to do with construction. A lot of it has to do with how we run a school day. Like, why do we start the day with breakfast? Why is lunch scheduled the way it is? Why do we schedule a day the way it is? But a lot of it will come back to facilities. And are we designing them in such a way that they support what we actually want to accomplish? And so I thought about trying to find clip art for a blank canvas, and I'm like, what better blank canvas than a white screen, right? Because it sounds great. But I feel like if you're in any kind of decision-making role, you find that like when you give people too many options, they don't even know where to start. And so I try to find another analogy. If you've ever painted your house or even painted a room in your house, you walk into the paint store, you walk into Lowe's, and it's like, who knew there were 100 shades of white? Right? Like I thought that I just wanted white. Mm-hmm. So again, like when you give people too many options, maybe you'll be happily surprised with what you get, but you might also be really disappointed. And so the idea of ed visioning is just to create some guardrails. So if we have priorities as a district, at a building, at a program, at a community, what are they? Put them to paper and give our teams directions so they understand what their guardrails, their goals are. Because if we don't make them for them as an organization, somebody is going to make those decisions. And so you go from that big color palette that you can't make a decision to that very curated postcard you take home, right? It shows your colonial home. Here's 5 colorways, and you look at colors and it's like, oh, I never thought about putting those colors together, but that's the one I want. And so that's kind of what I expect that we will come away from as a district out of EdVisioning. And so just the idea that unlimited choice, even though it sounds appealing, is actually really overwhelming to most people. And it is also the opportunity for the board, for leadership, to set those guardrails to make sure that what we end up as design is actually aligned to our strategic plan, and that it models the equity model that we're looking to accomplish. On a very practical side, I would tell you that we also have to expect we're going to make mistakes, and we have to be okay with that. And so one of the opportunities is that with our current life cycle renewal plan, we can actually develop these plans and we can put them into action quickly, and we can learn and we can iterate. And in my mind, that is the best way to position ourselves to be ready for facility master plan work. Like, we can only afford to make so many mistakes when we build our next new building. This is the opportunity to put that, again, those ideas ink to paper and test them. Help prepare teachers to teach in these spaces that look quite different than what they're used to, prepare students for how they're going to learn in these same spaces. The other reason why I think time is so important right now is, believe it or not, we actually do have the time. If we had a bond issue in hand and we were designing buildings, there is no time. It is design as fast as we can so we can build as fast as we can. So from a timing perspective, now is the time to initiate this work. So again, we can make some mistakes. We can come back to it. We can rethink and really refine the plan so we're ready to launch new construction.
Next slide.
Before we talk about the survey, though, I want to kind of come back to everything that Alex was talking about, because we did do a lot of work in that FMP process. It was actually a different process than we had done in the past. And, you know, but for COVID and but for, you know, some finances, we probably would have had a building by now because we were really driving towards that. But all things happen for a reason, because we don't have these ed specs, right? And so we need this part before we really start to, you know, build, because otherwise we're going to kind of do what we've done in the past, and that's kind of build cookie cutter buildings that don't necessarily meet all the needs that we just heard. And so, but we did learn a lot, and we learned a lot of things, and we got our community ready, and we got our community to say things out loud like, we do have too many schools. We do have too small schools. We do need bigger high schools. That right there was a huge win out of this process. And so I think we, you know, from that, we also had them, you know, again, you saw the video about them going to see spaces. You know, we talked a lot about aesthetics. We talked about what, you know, we wanted outdoor spaces, we wanted light, we wanted these things. So I just want to name that we do know a lot of things from our community, because we have talked to the community. And I know that one of the frustrations, I'll just say it out loud, is that our community feels like we don't listen because we come back and ask the same questions again and again and again. It's like, did I not tell you I want windows? Yes, we know. So again, when we come to do this educational visioning, this time, it's important, I think, to acknowledge that to the community. So having our new facilitator, who's different than did our FMP, understand what our community has already told us through that process and other processes. We survey our families all the time. Our panorama probably has data in it that we could pull from. You know, we have a lot of data that we could pull from. And, you know, I don't want it to feel like we're starting over, because we are not. We're continuing the work, and we are now refining the work to get us to this very large document that has very specific specifications about the size and layout of classrooms and all of that should be for when we go to build or modernize or renovate buildings. So Alex, I would love for you, because we saw a lot in the video, what I call the block exercise. Mm-hmm. Maybe explain that a little bit, because that actually, having the community do that exercise, I think, was the key to the shift in getting the community ready to make those big decisions about bigger high schools And could you just explain what that was? I don't know if any of you actually did that. I know it was back in 2021, and maybe it's something that we have you do, because it just, the mind puzzle of it is very interesting.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate the call out because it's funny, like, I feel like sometimes we as the people responsible for doing the work stew over all the things, and it's like, I don't know how to explain this to somebody. And we finally settled on, like, why are we trying to solve this for everybody? Like, let's just let them solve it themselves. So we created a simulation, and admittedly, it's a little oversimplified, but it's in such a way that you could roughly do it in maybe an hour between elementary, middle school, high school. And so it really just becomes a resource allocation issue. Like, here are all the current high schools. Here are the number of seats the state will allow us to build based on their rules. And where would you build given a certain set of rules? So elementary minimum size was 600 students. Minimum size for middle school was, I think, 800, and minimum for high school was 1,200. You can build as big as you want. You just can't go smaller than that. And so we kind of created some just ideas around, like, at a 600 size elementary, you could do these things. But to some of what you heard today, if you go bigger, you could conceivably have an elementary school that has all the things under one roof. Is that a model that makes sense? And it doesn't have to be the same across the whole system. So it really is giving everybody the blocks. Like, here's the basic rules for how you would develop our system across all grade levels. How would you design it? And it's literally done in little, they're not Legos, but little blocks that you can stack any way you want to. We kind of showed where all the sites were. Certain sites could hold a bigger site, certain ones cannot. And it really, again, like, sometimes I'm like, why do we try to solve all the things and explain it to somebody? Because then it's like, well, this was just your idea. Well, actually, it can be your idea too. So we did it physically, but we also actually created a full electronic version of it that we could send out. Like, you would we gave you the rules, and you could take a Sharpie and mark it and do it yourself. So we still have it. We can certainly bring it here another time. We can send it out electronically, whatever you think might be helpful. But it is really a way to make people wrestle with a resource allocation issue that has no great answer.
And from that point, because to be honest, even though that process was very innovative at the time and different, we still kind of didn't think about the whole picture. We still were missing pieces that we should have considered. And so things like population growth, and that's why this this is so important, because we're going to be learning more about the population shift and what is our city doing. We also did not really consider the transportation, what transportation was going on in the city. So now we know we have, the Link Us corridors, and we have with the, so even though that exercise at the time was very innovative, we now know more that we can even, right, things all happen for a reason, right? We can do even better now because we have additional information, and if we look more at our city holistically, we can put all these pieces together. And so, in one way, the ed specs are about, like, when we get ready to build the building, and those exercises were about, where are the buildings, and are we consolidating, where are we building, if we build the bigger high schools, what pieces of parcels and lands can hold that, and then where should they be across the city, right? So it all kind of fits together. But you saw a lot of that imagery, so I wanted to explain what that exercise was, and to me, that was the most powerful part of the FMP process itself, was that exercise. So
yeah, I would echo that. So it's not exclusively this way, but like the way an FMP process is set up tends to be fairly quantitative. It tends to be very much based on condition of buildings, age of buildings, which oftentimes reflects condition, but not always, enrollment, capacity. Like it tends to be the quantitative. I would argue that the ed specs tend to be the more qualitative side of it. Harder to measure, but have a whole lot more to do with the outcome, frankly, in terms of what our students experience.
Committee, do you have any questions for Alex, or anything now that's just like, I know it's a lot. You don't have to have any, but I just want to make sure you always have space to ask questions, or just things that even right now, if we can't answer, because we don't have all the answers either, but just things that are popping through your mind, like, that was really interesting, I never knew that, or gosh, I wish I knew more, or have you considered this? Anything just popping in your minds?
I just have questions, and this is thinking ahead to the engagement in the fall. And I think you mentioned this being over a span of weeks. It will be more robust. Will it be similar to kind of what you all did in this process, like a variety of times, methods, like more opportunity? Because I'm even looking at these dates and I'm like, I might be booked every single day. So even 2 weeks out is not even enough for me to, figure out the thing. So what does it look like to create the space to either let folks know even further ahead of time or just create more opportunities, whether it's a weekend or a hybrid for folks to engage? So is that the vision of engagement in the fall? Or whatever that looks like? And I know it's early, but.
Well, I actually would pose that back to this group. That's why we want to come together to do this work as a community. In your feedback and input on when you believe the best time would be for all of the voices that we want to consider. As Alex said, it's not 6 p.m. on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for everyone. Right. And so what should that engagement look like? And at the very end, I'll share a resource that the district uses around large district-wide events that are happening, and there may be some opportunities to tack on to some of those events where families are already coming, and I think there are strategic ways to work and to plan, but certainly the events at the end of this month are, again, just an introduction to reorient our community to this idea of visioning.
And that is something as we, the committee, will put together the calendar that will go through the fall. And so again, we don't want it to be 2 weeks. We would love to have this planned out where people know and can anticipate, especially since we know, there's less engagement during the summertime. So when people get ready to come back, we can be fully ready. And I think having it in obviously multiple ways works. We learned a lot from that effort because we had to pivot in COVID, but we learned a lot from that. And still people, still now, I think having virtual options and virtual meetings are very impactful. We also want to do more because we have the time to plan this out now, as Alex is saying, but, working and getting out to engage, working with you on going to our area commissions and going out to our faith-based and really intentionally getting out to where these groups are and doing this sort of visioning with them. So these three, I want to say this, these three are with our consultant, but what we want to do is also train us to be able to go out into the community and do the visioning to continue to gather the data, right? So us as the committee, hopefully some students, so that we can continue this dialogue. And it's, it would be a specific method to go collect the information from people and tell them. But, something that's super easy and, in a way that is digestible and targeted to certain groups of people. And so that's where we need your help. I'm just looking at you because you're Department of Neighborhood, so she's already tapped in. She's already got assignments and helping us connect. But, networks and where should we be? Because we know, saying out loud, we know that is a major criticism of our community. We do set a lot of, everyone come to us type of meetings, and that's not always the best way, especially with this sort of thing. And it could even be where we start to work with some of our family ambassadors, and they're, passing out things at the pickup line. Or, we do quick QR codes, and we have a 1-question survey instead of a 30-question survey where, we can do 1 question a week or something, where it's just easy, right? I think we have to think outside of the box about this sort of thing, but we will work on that, and we will set the calendar, and so as we continue on in our meetings, we will sort of set that pace. But we need to kind of get this one done first so we understand what it is. Makes sense. Yeah. Anything to add on that, Catherine? Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right, do you want to talk about the survey?
So let's transition to the survey. Do you want to set the stage for the purpose?
Yes,
of the
so
survey?
this survey is really designed, if you remember at the last meeting, I set out that our board leadership gave us some specific questions to answer and provide a report on in June. And so those questions were basically, and I don't actually have them in front of me, but in general, it was basically, what programming do we have in our district? What programming do we not have in our district? Why are families choosing CCS? And there was one more question. But basically, this survey is designed to start collecting some of that data. And so, do you want now to talk about it?
Sure. So just structurally, what you have in front of you is a draft. We are intentionally seeking your feedback. Once we have feedback, then our research team, our own staff, will create a survey. We use a platform called Thought Exchange, and we do multiple surveys through that platform now. We will be able to send this survey out to families through Parent Portal and email, other communication platforms that we have for families, but we would also be able to use our website and a variety of other strategies, communication strategies, to make sure that we are hearing both from families who are currently a part of the district, maybe families who are thinking about Columbus City Schools, as well as those folks in our community who maybe do not have students currently in the district. And so we are seeking feedback, and I think because of time tonight, Chair Adair, if it's permissible, we'll have the committee members take the draft with you, and if you would provide any feedback that you may have to Carl Williams, who sends out the invitations for these meetings. And I think we're looking for feedback certainly by the end of the month, because we would want to release this survey at the beginning of May. Thank you.
So yes, thank you all for that. And really, serious feedback. Wording of questions, are we missing a question? You don't understand the question, all that good stuff is really helpful. Okay, thank you all. So we're going to move into the policy discussion, and we're not really going to discuss the policy. I'm going to introduce what this is and where we are and why we are here and kind of our next steps with this policy. So this is policy number 7105. And it is about the closing of school buildings. You have been provided a copy of the draft board policy that has actually went through the policy committee, okay? So how we got it, the board, after we did the last task force they looked at the closures, because that's what our policy says, that whenever the superintendent is going to recommend closures of buildings, we put together a community task force, and they consider a bunch of things, and they provide recommendations back to the superintendent and board about what buildings should be closed in our district. And we have used this policy many times, and I would say at no point has it been successful. Either boards of education have not done what the committee has said, there's been issues in the process, or the community itself didn't feel heard, or, there's just been a lot of challenges, I think, to this. There wasn't enough community engagement, people thought, things like that, right? And so this last round, when we went through, the board, we used the policy as was written, and we actually made some of the recommendations that the task force brought forward. But the board even felt like after the task force, we had to do a separate process where the board went out itself and looked at the buildings. and used an equity lens as we went out and tried to understand more about the community. So the board set this policy to the policy committee to review. So last year, the policy committee took up this policy and reviewed it several times in several meetings. And they even had where they went out and looked at other school districts. What are other school districts doing? And so what they did was provide a draft and look at a draft that really didn't touch anything around the criteria aspect of the policy, but added in more around community engagement guardrails, because that was really the piece that we heard a lot about, and we had a lot of public comment in the committee meeting, in one of the committee meetings, from people that were feeling like that there's a gap there. But the policy committee looked at it and said, but there's nothing academic. There's really no academic consideration in this. So maybe the academic committee should look at this before it goes to the board, because we also seem to be missing a whole piece, right? And so now that we are doing ed specs, and we're talking about ed visioning, and we're talking about, this, we have looking at the district a little bit differently in terms of how we're doing career academies and all of that, we now need to figure out this policy. This policy, the board actually, we did vote to suspend this policy for, I think it was a few weeks or something, so that we could actually close some buildings at the end of December of 2025 without it going through a task force. All but one of the buildings, which was Como, that we closed, had actually gone through the task force, but Como was closed without using this policy, and we suspended it for that building. But we felt like that's not really what we need to be doing. Mm-hmm. We need to address this policy. So we as a committee are now going to be looking at this policy. We have the draft that was the draft that the policy committee had worked on, which adds additional pieces around community engagement, but really the whole thing is up for discussion. How do we really use this policy? What should be in it? Should we have less, more? Should we talk about ed specs? Should we talk about something else? We don't know, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be working on this. This will be a longer term project than I initially thought. And so we're going to be kind of working on this probably throughout the entire committee year. Okay, because it's a big deal, and it's a big deal to our community. So I want to introduce it. I just wanted to give you a little background about how it got here, all right? So I would just love for you just to read it, take it home, read it, look at it and be like, that makes no sense, this looks good, what am I hearing? Like, just comments. And then what we're going to do is, we're going to obviously provide more details about this, and we're going to hear from our administration on this about, because this is also not a required policy, by the way. We do this because we do. We choose to do it. This isn't one of those requirements from the state. There's no law about this. We don't have to even have this policy, but we do, right? So we're going to have our administration kind of tell us, maybe some perspective about this. We're going to talk about how it's worked in the past, kind of try to learn from it and figure this out a little bit more. So anyway, that's the introduction to this. This will be a longer term project. So that's what we're doing right now on it. All right. Okay. Our last thing in community engagement, Alex did preview the field trips for the outside schools. I don't know if we have any scheduled yet or what the plan is, because we were going to look at some CCS schools. So I'll turn this back over to Catherine to see if there's any additional updates, because we did kind of talk about the data collection too.
Yes. So you can look forward to a series of calendar invitations. Certainly the Thomas Worthington, Alex, thank you to you and your team for getting that scheduled for us. There are two others that I think we'll have confirmed within a week or so. And then we will also offer visits to at least 2 of our district schools. We want to make sure to look at a legacy school so that everyone understands what we mean by that term. In addition to that, I wanted you all to know that on our district website, we keep a calendar of district-wide events, and so we'll make sure you have a link to that as well. There are some great opportunities, back to school fair, but other events that are on that calendar as well. And again, maybe places that the committee would want to go and engage with community members. And finally, you have at the bottom of your packet what we've referred to as an at a glance. And this is the beginning of that toolkit that we've mentioned. We want to make sure that you're equipped with resources when you are out engaging with community members, that you have some facts and figures, some maps, and are able to point people towards accurate information about services and programs, locations. So we will be adding to this packet. We will also make sure that you have a digital version so that you can share that with community stakeholders.
I also want to say that we are working actually with our internal auditor's office on creating a SharePoint site for the committee where you will be able to find information. So just like Ms. Mosier said, we'll get digital, we can put that there so you don't have to go look for it in your email. It will just be on our SharePoint site, which is dedicated for our committee. And so just to let you know that we are working on that, and we are working on that. And I want to thank the auditor's office because they just did that for us they thought it would be helpful, and I was like, it's amazing. And so we're working on that right now, and so it will just be a good one-stop shop for all of you where you don't have to go look for anything, which is always amazing.
Past presentations.
Exactly, all of it. It's all going to be there.
We talked last month about the fact that we had done a presentation on pre-K, for example. We've done a presentation on adult education, so we won't come back and do those same presentations, but you'll have a very easy way to navigate to that information.
All right. Are there any other kind of questions, comments from the committee tonight? Okay. Well, I hope that, oh, yes, Mr. Williams.
Minutes. We did not approve the minutes.
Oh, I did not approve the minutes. I'm sorry. I guess I got so excited that I didn't. So let's go back. Thank you for that. March 11th, it's item 2.1. I did skip right over that. Is there a motion to approve our minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve our minutes from the March 11th meeting.
No, didn't I do that? Because I said something about, oh, you guys have to do it because I don't have my board members here that normally do. I did that.
Yeah, you did, because I second.
Yeah.
We did agenda.
That was a, yeah. Oh, that was the agenda.
Okay, well.
The minute, yes.
We're motionless.
Same. All right, so we had a motion and a second. Mr. Cox.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, then that was kind of backwards, but okay too. So that will end our meeting. But I really appreciate all of you. And again, ideas, questions, comments. This is how we get better. And I want to thank our staff for being here. And the same goes for you. This is going to be our happy space where we get to really try to work together and make it the best that we can. And it's going to be an exciting year here in this committee. I appreciate seeing all of your faces and presentations every time. I just want to say thank you. All right, and with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
With that, we are adjourned.